Welcome to this episode of Your Property Business, the video podcasts that help you get the most out of your own property business. And today I'm delighted to be talking to you with Richie Clapson. Richie is a structural engineer, a property developer, a business coach, and a property development trainer. Let me tell you a bit about Richie. He's been involved in property development for almost 40 years, is a co-founder of Property CEO, and he coaches both novice and experienced property developers on how to create substantial returns from small to medium-size scale developments. And as a structural engineer by profession, Richie has worked on hundreds of new builds, commercial and industrial conversion projects. He's also trained and mentored many property developers and professionals. And as a business coach and strategist, he's built one of the country's leading structural engineer firms and was appointed by the government as a peer review engineer for the London 2012 Olympic Stadium. And today, Richie and his business partner, Ian Child, head up Property CEO, one of the country's most exclusive property development training companies. So without further ado, let's invite Richie to the screen and ask Richie to introduce himself.
Hello, Chris.
Hi, Richie. We've just introduced you. Welcome to Your Property Business. We're just here to chat about your experience. And if you can give us a bit of a flavour for who you are, what you do, and how you can help, that'd be awesome.
Chris, well, first of all, thanks for having me here today. It's an absolute pleasure to be here, and hopefully for all those that's going to listen, you're going to get some useful bits of information, a few golden nuggets here or there. Bit about me. I'm a chartered structural engineer. I've been in this industry now nearly 40 years, okay? Worked at a fairly high level in the industry, invited by the government to peer review a number of projects, worked on all sorts of projects. Really, today is probably more relevant, probably for people that's listening to this. I retired 13 years ago, Chris, and actually come out of retirement to start a property development training company, which I used to do privately. I used to train people privately over the years, both existing and established developers, as well as new developers or people that wanted to get into development new. And now pretty much that's what I do full time. I absolutely love it. I love changing people's lives. So I'm one of the co-founders here at Property CEO. Most of my time is spent either traveling around the country, teaching people and teaching my students to do development, or indeed traveling around the country talking to people that want to get into development. So, Chris, thanks for having me.
Thanks very much, Richie. So what sparked my interest there is that you came out of retirement to do this. So also clearly a passion for it and a love for it. Just to start us off then, so what would you class as a small scale development and what are its attractions, do you think?
Okay, yeah, good point. First of all, this obviously did bring me out of retirement. I think the thing with retirement, you've got to find something to do. I'm not a golfer. I'm not a skier, so I wanted to do something. And yeah, you've got to have a passion. I think to train people, you've got to have an absolute passion because it's quite hard work. So you've got to have that passion to put in. Development, first of all, property development. Let me just describe property development and then we'll talk about small scale development because I think it leads in, if I may, Chris. First of all, property development, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that's going to listen to this and might be thinking about a flip, taking a residential building, doing it up and flipping it on or something. When I'm talking about development, I'm talking about repurposement of something, either a bit of land, put a building on it. So we've repurposed the land into a building, or we take an existing building, maybe an existing commercial building, and turn it into residential. It could be a commercial restaurant, we turn it into an office. But let's, for today's purposes, talk about turning a commercial building into residential. So it's a repurposement of buildings. Okay. That's development. Your question in terms of, Chris, what is, small development or small scale development and why? Well, small scale development, my definition of small scale development, and people, perhaps if you listen to this, write this down, grab yourself a pen and paper, write this down, please. Okay. Because this is so important because this is about minimizing risk. You can make a lot of money. You can make six-figure sums out of development. But I often get asked, and we just as well start straight away today, is it risky? Yes. Can you lose money? Yes. Okay. Are you going to be a multimillionaire by the time you start a year later? No. Okay. So this is
good to get that out there.
Yeah. Well, you've got to, haven't you, Chris? Because I think here at Property CEO, we don't do rah-rah. We don't do, Yeah, come on, this is easy. You know, this is
Mm.
hard work.
Mm.
It's very hard work, but it's entirely possible to go and do.
Mm.
And it's about minimization of risk, and that leads into this small scale development, which is it's the title of the book that we've written to guide people on this subject, but it's also the title of what fundamentally we direct people towards. I actually train people to be developers so they can develop what they want, but uh, my purpose of training people, I always say, for your first project, stick to small scale. Okay, absolutely have to. And that is, and hopefully everyone's grabbed a pen and paper by now, 5 to 20 units. Okay, because below 5, Chris, is where the local builders will play, and they operate on a different business model. They're just looking at profitability on their building costs, not necessarily on the development overall. So below 5,
Okay.
it's very difficult to compete. Okay.
So when you
Above
say
20,
5, could that mean flats, or could that mean 5 terraced houses, or
could mean anything. 5
right?
units. Okay.
Okay.
So 5 units could be 5 flats, could be 5 houses. Absolutely, Chris. Good question.
Mm,
So
okay.
it could be 5 houses, 5 flats. Because local builders can cope with that, and they often buy little sites like that. They often call them hospital projects in the industry, because a lot of local builders have a bit of cash. Oh, buy that bit of site there, buy that old building, put 4 or 5 units in it. The reason they call them hospital projects in the industry, a hospital project is very well known for anyone in this industry to last years and years and years. Yeah, in my very early age of 16 years old, starting on a drawing board in this industry way back when, I worked on a hospital project for like 3 or 4 years, drawing up the same damn hospital project.
Mm,
And that's why they're called hospital projects, because you sort of can dive in and dive out of them. And a builder will often keep them when he's got little sort of quiet periods between other private clients' projects, and he puts his
got it.
bricklayers or his plasterers over on them. So you can't normally compete below 5 units, and above 20 you can't compete. Keep within 5 to 20. Above 20 is where the regional developers are. You're going to get people that will start perhaps where you're going to start, if anyone out there now is thinking about starting this, but then have progressed. And they're out there doing the 20, 30, 40 sites. They're not the Barretts, the Persimmons, the Bellways, but you've probably seen them around about, little regional players in your area that will go in and do projects, those sort of numbers. The 5 to 20 is small scale development, and that is a real sweet spot. And one other thing, just to add on to the end of that, is because we're talking about minimization of risk, you're relatively quick in and out, 18 to 24 months. And we know, don't we, Chris? We all now know that the world changes.
Yeah,
Okay.
it does.
And
Yeah.
so you don't want a project that's going to run, you don't want a project with 25 units that's going to run 3 or 4 years. Because when you start now, the world could be very different in 3 or 4 years' time. So 18 to 24 months, 5 to 20 units, small scale development, and development is about repurposement of either land or existing buildings. Does that answer the question?
Awesome. That does, yeah. And I guess just to further that, why is that? Why is it an attractive proposition for someone to think about? What's the attraction there, do you think?
What's the attraction for people to get into development?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, okay, although I always dispute this with people when I first talk to them, the attraction is always money, okay, because anyone listening to this, and you make your own minds up, okay, if I could teach you how to earn £250,000 a year, would that change your life?
Yeah.
What do you think the answer for most people is, Chris?
Yeah, it's a no-brainer, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, most people. I mean, there's some people who go, no, I want £1 million a year. To be fair, they're few and far between. Most people, if they could earn £250,000, even 150, 200,000 a year, some 100, okay, that sort of money is way above what a lot of people would get paid in this country, with the average wage just below 30,000. So most people are initially attracted in by the money. Yeah, if I could earn £250,000 a year, and you can, okay, when you know how to do this, you can. I've got students at their first projects, 300,000, 400,000. There's 2 of them doing that, to be fair, so it's 200 each, okay. I've got one student earning about let's say 600,000, just over that. So some big numbers. I've got another student earning just 100. Okay, so big numbers out your first project. So I think first and foremost, people get attracted in by the money. But I always say to people, well, it's not really about the money. The great thing about development, which I think further attracts people into it, is the leverage that you can get. Because a lot of people have buy-to-lets, and a lot of people listening to this, I've no doubt, have got buy-to-lets. And trouble, as soon as you get a buy-to-let, you've got to get the tenant in, because the mortgage is, as soon as you've bought the thing, the mortgage is going to start coming out. You've got to get a tenant in. And people end up running around, putting bathrooms in the back of their car, going over Eden's weekend, trying to decorate the place, trying to get it on the market for the tenant.
Yeah.
And that's not leveraged. Whereas development is highly leveraged. And what most people then start to realize is not only can you earn significant sums, but you also have significant time back in your life.
Really?
And the reality, most of us, what we really want is time.
Yeah.
But money buys you time.
That's definitely an eye opener. I think that might be one of the. This is leading on to the next question about the misconceptions. There's often, I think, when you're trying to create wealth and do new businesses, there's an automatic assumption you need to dump all of your time, all of your resources into it, which I think you have to work hard, I guess, anything to make it successful. But in terms of misconceptions around sort of small scale development, what do you think the main misconceptions are, do you think, out there?
Main misconceptions. Okay. Firstly, most people think of small scale development, and I use other people's words that I hear so often played back to me by students, as an advanced strategy in property. And it's not. Okay. And I hate the word strategy, to be fair. What I actually like is it's a business. And I think a lot of people don't think of it being a business. So the first thing is think of it as a business. So this misconception is that I'm going to get into property. I'm completely brand new. I can't possibly start as development because that's for the big boys, the big girls. Okay. I've got to start and do a bit of sourcing, a bit of rent to rent, a bit of buy to let, HMO, service departments. And if I'm really well behaved, I could do the advanced strategy of property development. No, it's not. That is about as far from the truth as you can ever imagine for most people. Okay. Now, I'm not going to deny that if you're in the industry and you get in the industry and you dip your toe into sourcing, doing some rent to rent, buy to lets, you are going to pick up a lot of terminology and you're going to gain some great experience. Quite often, though, a lot of that experience is not relevant to being a developer because development is in terms of its complexity, it's a big step up. Okay. And I've got a student of mine who teaches HMOs. Okay. But he said, my word, what a difference this is. There are thousands of moving parts in property development. But the reality is you can learn it. Okay. You can learn it. So if you need passive income, if you're trying to get that income to replace your job and you want to do it relatively quickly, you can go on a mastermind, like a PIN mastermind, and the results are there, proven time after time that people can go in and replace their wages within a year. You're not going to do that in development. Okay. You're not going to get rich in development in a year. You're going to take you 2 years. It's probably going to take you, we train people, it takes 12 months. Okay. You can't start looking for 6 months. So there's 6 months and it might take you 18 to 24 months to do the deal. So you're probably not going to get any money out the back end till 2 years. So if you need passive income, you're trying to get out that job straight away or as quick as you can, go and look at buy-to-let HMO service departments, good cash flow products. If you're actually, and I've got a lot of students who've already got portfolios. They've already got portfolios. They built their portfolios. They're struggling to build them any quicker. They feel the government's coming down on them at every left, right, and centre angle. Or equally, we've got people who've got other businesses. Okay, I've got accountants that I'm training. I've got IT consultants that've got their other businesses, which they're very happy with, and they want. Maybe let's use the word maybe not appropriately, but a side hustle. It's a bit more than a side hustle, but they want a side hustle. Okay. And the thing that development gives you, it gives you this opportunity because it's highly leveraged. You are not picking up bathrooms in the back of your car. You are not decorating it. You are not actually going to be down on site every week. In fact, they don't want you on site every week. You might go once or twice a month at most.
Okay.
So it's a highly leveraged business. And so the reality is it's a different business model. You just need to learn it. And so this misconception, I think the most popular misconception is that it's something that's advanced and I have to build up to. And it is definitely not. I think there is a misconception, which I think a few people would appear to the reactions that we get from people that we meet, peddle perhaps, is that it's relatively straightforward. And it's not. Okay. It's hugely complex. It's hard work. That doesn't mean lots of hours. It's about working smarter, but it's hard work, but it's entirely possible. Okay.
Got it.
So as long as you're going into it expecting this to be a hard journey, because no one out there if they really think about it, Chris, expects to make £250,000 a year like a walk in the park.
No. There's a massive commitment, isn't there? I think mental commitment and then physically doing things, which definitely sets any successful person, I think, apart. So I think there's I was just written down prerequisites. What are the prerequisites? So I'm sitting here and there's a lot of self-reflection going on. I wonder. So I've got some experience with landlording and letting agents and HMOs, but development definitely feels like one of those things that's maybe beyond. But what would you say would be the prerequisites of someone if they're considering starting and or committing, maybe that's a better word, committing to be a property developer?
Well, I think firstly that last sentence, the word you use, committing, is the most important. Okay, when we talk about prerequisites, because you've got to commit to it. Okay, this isn't going to happen in 12 months. You give up. Okay, I often tell this story. One of my accountability coaches, that we keep all our students accountable, because the biggest thing that's going to get in your way is you. Okay, so whoever's listening out there, or if it was yourself, Chris, you're going to get in your own way and stop you doing it, because it's mindset. Okay, and we all know, hopefully in this industry, mindset is as important as the technical aspects. So we always say there's three legs to the stool. We say it's mindset, it's technical, it's obviously the property development stuff, and of course it's business. So the three aspects are absolutely important.
Yeah.
So the first prerequisite was that last comment of yours, that you want to be committed. You need to know why you're doing this. You've got to have a really strong reason, because this is a tough journey. If you're going to climb a mountain for a charity, the reason that you get to the top of that damn mountain is that you've committed to all those sponsors that aren't going to pay up. Or you've got to go and look them in the face and maybe pretend or suggest you're going to get their money back, and you're going to let the charity down. So it's the commitment and the reason that you've given to that charity. And most people choose a charity that means something to them for some reason. Okay, it's a quite strong connection, which drives you to it. So that commitment, you've got to have a reason to really want to go and do this.
I think that's a really good general business point there. And I was just looking at your website, and I was blown away by how much support there was with mindset, with business. Technical. You'd assume it was all about technical, wouldn't you? I think, but I think your website and your company reflects the fact it is so mindset driven as well.
It is. And let me go back to these prerequisites, okay? Because what it is, you're running a business. It just happens to be property development. So we got to get into this mindset of we're running a business. And so you are not going to be a bricklayer. You are not going to be a specialist planning consultant. You're not going to be the architect. You're not going to be the structural engineer, the project manager, the quantity surveyor, and so on and so forth. Because you don't have time to learn every single one of those subjects to the extent you would need to actually deliver on all of those subjects, all those technical areas to the required standard. So what you're actually going to do is run a business. And so you need to have the ability to run a business. You need to know what you don't know. So you need to understand the technical aspects at the level you need to understand them. You need to know how to analyze deals and so on. But the prerequisites at the beginning. So Chris, you sat there. Let me ask you, have you got these skills? I always ask this. Have you got management skills? Well, one's assuming that you have. You've got an existing business, you're involved in, you run stuff, you do stuff, you manage things. So yes. Have you got any organizational skills? Well, you've organized me to be here today. It's turned up. One's assuming the technology is going to work absolutely fine and people are going to listen to this. So yes, you can organize things. Okay. Have you got decision-making skills? Well, in a business, you have to make regular decisions every day from information that people provide and they give you. You've got to choose to make that decision. You don't sit there going, oh, I'm not really sure. You've got to make a decision. And most fundamentally, and Chris, you all know this in business, what's the most fundamental thing to the success of any business or any business leader is people skills. Okay. That ability to be a leader, to inspire people to follow you. Okay. Inspire people to do what you want them to do for you, and to interact and engage with people. There are many different leadership styles without going down those avenues and discussions today. There are people that shout and bang and holler, and there's those which are a bit more encouraging. Now, who's to say what's right or wrong? But most good leaders are a leader of people. So people skills are fundamental. So if you're out there listening to this and you're in nothing related to property, but you've got management, organization, decision, and people skills, well, you can do this. I've got a restaurateur that I've trained to go and make a six-figure sum out of property. Well, she's got management skills in a restaurant. She's got decision-making skills. She's obviously got organizational skills and fundamentally She's got people skills.
I think that's so yeah, encouraging, inspiring. Not once have you sort of sat there and said you need to know how to, like you say, technical aspects. You obviously need to know some of those things, and they're learnable. But I think there were a lot of people who probably would have nodded to themselves during that moment and said, "Yeah, I can do a bit of management. I can organise and I can inspire." So I think probably from that little few moments, there's a lot of people on here going, "Yeah, I can probably do some of this stuff." And I think that's probably presumably part of why you do what you do, is to break down those barriers, to get more people into the space where they can do developments and they can change their life with, lumps of income, etc. Yeah, so thanks for that. That was very clear
Yeah.
about
I mean, it goes back, you said, presumably this is what you do. Chris, go back to what you said at the beginning. This is my passion. I do this, and there's a story to why I actually do this and why it is my passion, maybe for another day. But the fact that you go in and you change people's lives is great. So, I think development mustn't be underestimated. It's hard work. So you don't want to oversell development to people that think it's going to be easy, but those that are committed, those that are focused and are prepared to go the extra mile, that's what we love, because I know it's entirely possible. I know I can pretty much train anyone. I mean, just literally this morning, I know we're recording this today and when it might go out, but actually just this morning, I was speaking, Chris, to a 17-year-old absolutely go-getter entrepreneur, okay, who I met at a PIN meeting, reached out and said, would Richie possibly have a one-to-one with me? Well, I don't do one-to-ones with people because I don't have the time. But the mere fact he was 17-year-old, he reached out after seeing me at a PIN meeting. I had a half-hour call with him this morning.
So impressive, yeah.
And he wanted to know, was it possible for him to become a developer at 17 years old? And I said, yes. Is it harder work? Yes. Okay. But actually, in lots of ways, you're unhindered by a lot of the baggage that we create as we get older.
Yeah, true.
But people like that, and I'm not saying it's going to be a lot harder for him, but it is possible. And that's the interesting, exciting thing about this. If people want to do development, when you open their eyes to the possibilities, it is great.
Well, that's smashing. Thanks for that. I'm just going to bring us back a little bit towards the sort of more nuts and bolts of it. But in terms of why do you think now might be a good time to contemplate development? There's so much going on in the lettings world, landlord market, economy, et cetera. Is now a better or worse time, or is just as good as any?
Well, okay, picking up your last comment, it's almost as good as any. It is actually slightly better, and I'll tell you for why in a minute. But one thing about development, because we are generating big lumps of cash, it is life-changing. And so is now a good time? Let's just reverse that back to not the marketplace, but to people personally. Is it a good time for you personally? Is this a time in your life when you need to put your money in your pension pot? And maybe you're getting to that 50-year-old, or you're on the other side of 50, maybe you're 60, you're thinking, hey, hang on a minute, I've got a pension pot. So is now a good time, or an essential time perhaps in your life, whoever you might be out there listening to this, to start earning six-figure sums of money? Maybe. Okay. And development is always good. Development always works. The reason it generally always works is the marketplace, okay, demands more housing. We fall way short of our housing requirements in this country. And so there's always a requirement for more housing. Equally, right at the moment, the government are actually supporting developers with the way that they can short circuit the planning system. A lot of people would have heard permitted development rights, but they've provided us, to us by the government, to help us be successful in development, particularly small scale development. And so the government are encouraging us. The marketplace is there. And there's an expression which I suspect a lot of people would have heard if they're dipping their toe in property in some way. And that is, you make your money when you buy. You make your money when you buy. And at the moment, what I talked about development is about repurposement. What I try and focus most people on, I actually train people to be developers. So I've got developers doing new build, I've got developers doing refurbishment. Most people I would focus towards refurbishment for their first project because there's less risk, and we have these permitted development rights. We don't have to go in the planning system. And when we're repurposing buildings that are generally defunct, they're empty. And if we think about the marketplace in commerce out there in terms of shops and banks and offices, there's so many of those buildings empty. Do you think those current vendors with no tenants are motivated to sell? because they're
Yeah.
unlikely. I walked down High Street in a local town to me. My wife and I popped out literally a few weeks back, Chris, to pick something up. And there was about 12 shops in a row, which was just changing the whole atmosphere in that High Street,
Yeah.
which was a real shame, all empty.
It's a real shame.
And I said to my wife, is anyone going to be rocking up soon looking to rent those properties? No. So if you're a landlord, a vendor with one of those properties, you're going to be keen to sell. And what we all want is motivated sellers. So right now we have a huge amount of motivated sellers, and the more bad news we get, the better from a developer's point of view. Okay, because that means those sellers are even more motivated. 2008, the real big recession that we had, a lot of developers made a lot of money because they made their money when they bought well. So a combination of, is this right for you? Is this a time that you need to change your life and start earning those six-figure sums? 2 or 3 years from now, what would the world be like if you started earning that? Is that a nice to have, or is it an absolute essential? Secondly, the demand is there for housing. Is the HMO market saturated? In some areas it is, some it isn't. But certainly the demand for housing is generally not saturated. It's falling way behind. And the disruption in the marketplace, in the marketplace of commerce and those buildings that are available, means you're going to get motivated sellers, and you make your money when you buy.
No, fantastic answer. I think what sparked my interest there wasn't, flip on its head, it wasn't the economy, it wasn't the situation, it was, is it right for you now? So are you in the right space? And I think that was, you can't time the market. I think that's a really risky thing to do. And I think I hear landlords and would-be investors thinking it's now a good time to buy. And the best time to buy, Chinese proverb, was 20 years ago. Obviously, the next best time to buy is now. So timing the market's a risky strategy. Is it right for you now? I think that's a much better question. So yeah, thanks for explaining that. So I guess just to start to think about, we've got some inspiration, we've got people who kind of start to believe that you might be able to achieve some of these things. How can you and your company and what you've put together help people if they're thinking, I might just take the next step now, I might pick up the phone? What can you advise them is their next step, do you think?
I think the first thing that you have to decide is whether it is for you or not. Okay. When we set this company up, Chris, we decided to set our stall out not to be the biggest, but to be the best at what we do. I'm pretty certain, I'm told, that I'm the only professionally qualified person in the industry training property development. So we set our stall out to be the best. We have one program. It's a 12-month full mentorship program where we will teach you how to become a property developer and support and guide you in it. It's that aftercare stuff. Okay. So the first 6 months is all about education and learning. The second 6 months is about action and doing through the support of our developers club that people become part of on their 12 months. But there's no point going and spending a load of time, investing a load of time and investing a load of money on yourself if it's not what you want to do. Okay. So I think that's imperative. So the first thing I would say is make sure you know this is something you want to do. We have a regular open door show. If anyone pops onto YouTube, you can go and just type in Property CO, go onto Open Door. We interview lots of guests. We talk a lot about the industry. You will glean, if you're brand new to property, a lot of information from that to get a feel for whether it's what you want to do. Come and see me talk. Okay. Come and talk to me at events. So come and see me talk at events. Chat to me with your own specific questions. I'm always available at events. I'm always willing to give as much time as I can at those before I need to leave. And that will also guide and steer you. What we then have, if people want to think, this is definitely for me, we almost insist, it's almost an insistment, because our main program is by invitation only. We actually say, come and spend 3 days with us. We have a virtual meeting. It's called Fast Track. People can pop onto our website. So if anyone's just interested in the concept of it, go onto our website, go onto the training tab, have a look at the Fast Track. There's a 3-day Fast Track event, and you can come and spend 3 days in a virtual meeting with myself and some of my colleagues. We don't teach you development in 3 days. Our full mentorship does that, and all the details of that. The cost never changes. It's all on our website. It's all fairly black and white. But on the 3 days, you will learn everything about development. And what we do, Chris, and people say, you don't do this. But when afterwards, they always say, you did. You actually genuinely did this. I would try and put you off. I would try and tell you how risky this is. I try and tell you how difficult it is over 3 days. And I genuinely get quite a lot of people at the end of those 3 days go, I'm out of here. Great. I've done my job. Then those that go after 3 days of intense training, they clearly understand that they're not fully educated and ready to rock and roll. But actually, they go, I want to do this, and I'm prepared to put that effort in. So the ultimate goal, we would say to people, go and have a search around some of the free stuff. Come and hear me talk. If you're serious, and if now is a good time for you, or you think it might be, at the very least, make a relatively small investment. Pop on our website; it's all on there. Come and see us for 3 days on a virtual meeting. There's no hard sell. You can't buy a big program at the end of it. And spend 3 days. Go away afterwards. Sit and contemplate it. Cool yourself down. Think about it. Have a quiet word with yourself. And decide whether it's what you want to do.
I think that is a fantastic offer, and what I'm, excited about is that I'm not going to tell you yes or no, this is for you, and it's totally your decision, and you need to know ultimately if it's right. So you're offering a service, but it's not for everyone, and I get that. That's smashing. That's really refreshing to hear. Thank you so much.
Okay.
I think we're approaching the end of our session, Richie. I mean, I've got so much value out of that. I'm a little nervous about what I might decide to do next, is the truth, because I think, like you said, it is a choice. I think whether you want to make that choice or not is totally your decision. So I hope people listening at home have got some of that sense that you can choose your destiny a bit, and if property development is one of those things you want to start doing, there is no good reason not to. You need some prerequisites, which we've heard about. You need to know your technical stuff, but ultimately committing, getting educated, and just getting support from the people who know what they're doing. So I'm going to wrap up there, Richie. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that?
No, but Chris, just thank you for having me on. It's always a pleasure to speak to people. We talked about at the beginning, I do this as a passion. I love seeing it when the light comes on in people's eyes and they go, wow. They haven't even necessarily got a deal, but they go, I can do this. Yeah. That is one of the most rewarding things you can get as a trainer, as an educator. I don't think anyone trains unless they've got a passion to do it. And I think that's the most rewarding thing. So as you say, it's your own decision to make. So hopefully my wish today is that people's invested a bit of time listening to this, and at least one golden nugget has come their way.
Smashing. Well, thank you very much. We'll wrap up there, Richie. Thanks so much for your time. And thanks everyone for watching this episode of Your Property Business. If you're getting value from this interview or these episodes, please hit subscribe or like the video. My name is Chris Jones, and this has been Your Property Business, and I look forward to seeing you all next time. Thank you very much indeed.